I am extremely excited because we have come to the final chapter before we get building our first official website. And I'm also excited because this chapter in particular, is also very awesome. So we have looked at flows before, which was a way we could align and put out our layout the way we want. But we saw how cumbersome it was and how limiting it was. So now I'm going to introduce you to something awesome called Flexbox. And Flexbox allows us to create these awesome responsive layouts in an extremely simple, super way. So let's get started. All I'm going to do is just create a container div here, and I'm going to add a few boxes. All right, so let's do a few boxes here. Box 1, box 2, and box 3. After we're going to do this chapter on Flexbox, I'm actually going to show you a practical example of creating a layout. So that's going to come up in the next chapter. And then I'm going to also give you a challenge for you to do another one. So let's actually create like 6 here. So let me copy this three more times here, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and what I'm going to do is just go to the CSS and I'm going to add some basic styling. So first of all, I'm going to remove the margins on all the elements, add a padding of 0 and a box sizing of border box. Okay, now what we can also do, if I want to particularly style only these divs, I can also add another class of box like this. So now I can apply specific styles only to this box, box, and box, and hit save. Okay, super. So what we can do, let's also add a H1 in here. Oh, okay. Let's make this easy to see. All right, just to make everything very visible. All right, we're also gonna have to rename these. I should have done this beforehand, but I thought I'd show you because I like starting everything from scratch, because when I was learning, I found it very difficult when people would jump in to a lot of code. It's like, oh, okay, this is our code, let's move on, let's go here. Like, whoa, hold up. I want to see what you wrote. So this is what we have, a container with divs and H1s inside of them. So right now, if we take a look here, this is what we have. Okay, so I'm gonna select all the boxes and I'm just gonna add a height and width to them. So let's do 10 rem to this, and let's do width of 10 rem. All right, I'm gonna set something fixed for now. Okay, and let's also grab each one and just add a background color to all of them. And one final thing I'm gonna do is actually wrap everything. So I'm gonna add a border to this container so we can see exactly where our content is. So there we go. So as you can see by default, if we add these divs, it's gonna be display style block, which means that all of our content is gonna stretch all the way here. So there's gonna be empty space here, and they're gonna jump to another row. So all the way down here. So with Flexbox, we can change this behavior in a lot of awesome, cool ways. So let's take a look. The first property is on the parent. So what I'm going to show you basically is all the properties that you can add to the parent container, which is going to affect all the children inside. Okay. And then after, we are going to take a look at the child attributes that we can use as long as the container has a display property of flex. All right, so for now, we're just gonna take a look at the parent. So where this big border is, adding styles to that and how it's gonna affect the underlying divs inside. So let's take a look on this container. If I add a display flex, all of my content is automatically gonna jump one next to another like that. Okay, now here's the cool part. By default, this has a flex direction. So here's another property. This has a flex direction property of row. So they come one next to each other. Now here's the strength of Flexbox. I can modify this the way I want. If I want, I can do row reverse, and that's gonna flip everything over. Take a look at that, how cool. We can also change this to column if we want. So again, the standard, the way we had it before, or we can also do column reverse, which is gonna again switch everything over. Awesome. So let's change this back actually to the normal behavior. And by doing that, we can just remove this. Now what happens when we decrease the size of this? So as you can see, all the content actually gets kind of squished there, right? Okay, but what if I want this to wrap? So what if I don't have enough space here anymore, I want this to jump over here, right? I don't want this to get way small like this. So as soon as I'm out of space, make it jump. Well, there's a property called flex wrap, and by default, this is set to no wrap. However, if I add wrap, take a look, as soon as it's out of space, the content starts wrapping around, which makes for responsive web design super easy. There we go. We can also reverse this behavior by adding wrap reverse, and that's gonna kind of just do the exact opposite. There we go. All right, there we go. Let's remove this for now because I want to show you a lot of other cool things. Let's increase the size of this a bit like that. There's another property that's gonna affect the children, which is called justify content. All right, and this is gonna affect all of them horizontally. So if I add center here, all of my content is going to be placed in the center. I can add flex start, which is going to put it at the beginning, which is the default, and flex end is going to put it in the end. Okay, very cool. Now, let me show you something. If I add a height to this, so I'm going to add a fixed height of 50 VH just to make this larger. I can move this back around. Let's do justify content center. Right, just like that. I can also align this vertically, perfectly, the way I want. I can do align items for this, and I can say center, and take a look. We have aligned horizontally and vertically super easily. We can also do end, flex end, and that's gonna put it at the end. Cool. Let's move this back to the center. There's another one called space around, like this. If I hit save, this is going to leave space at the beginning here, at the end as well. But the space is not equal here between the actual, so the space here at the beginning of the border is not equal with the space with the elements, with the divs here. So this is larger than the space it leaves here. If we want equal spaces here and in the middle, we can add space evenly. So there's a lot of flexibility that you have with justify content, which makes it super, super awesome. Now with the align items, you can have flex start, flex end, center that we saw. And we also have one called stretch. All right, and if we hit save, nothing's gonna happen because we have a set height on the box. But if I remove this, as you can see, it stretches automatically all the way down. So if I increase the height of this container, it starts growing. However, if I change the align items to center or something, then it's gonna shrink all the way to the size of the text that we have here. All right, so that's pretty cool. There's another one that's called baseline, which kind of just centers all the text that you have in here. So it makes sure that every text that you have is on the same line, okay? But that is the difference. If you don't have a height on it, by default, it's gonna stretch out automatically, okay? So if you don't have a height on the box, it's gonna stretch out automatically. But if you add center or flex start or flex end, it's gonna shrink down to the size of the text that we have here inside. Okay, very cool. Now, what happens if we change the direction? And what I mean by that is, let's remove everything. Let me add back the height here. Okay, and let's remove everything. What happens if, I don't want to remove the height of the box like that. Actually, you know what? It's fine, because what I want to do is say flex direction column. Like that, okay? So as you can see, even now, it kind of shrinks like that, okay? And we can still apply things like flex wrap, we can say wrap, and that's gonna work just fine. So it works in every direction that you want. Okay? But I don't want this to happen. I just want to show you, because this is very important and it gets confusing to a lot of people, is that once you change the flex direction to column, the align items and the justify content switch over basically. All right, so we use justify content to basically align everything horizontally. Now we use justify content to align everything vertically. So as soon as you switch over the flex direction, these two properties, the align items and the justify content, switch places. So now if I add align item center, it's actually gonna do it horizontally like this. And let's switch over to this view, then it's gonna do it vertically. All right, so if you have column, it's gonna do it horizontally, and if you have row, it's gonna do it vertically. All right, and same goes for the justify content. So I can see flex start, but the problem is that there's no space here. So let's actually make these a bit smaller. Let's change it to 5 and 5, and we'll increase this to 100. So our box is a bit bigger. Okay, so now you can see it a bit easier. If we add align item center, it's gonna do it horizontally. And the flex start, so justify content changes to the vertical line. So if I add center here, oops, let me remove flex, it's just center. We don't have to add flex, it goes there. So now we can apply vertically the space around or space in between. So you have all the flexibility in the world. You can align everything the way you want. Let's do space between, hit save, and there we go. Now we don't have any spaces empty here. So again, let me remove this just real quick so you can see the difference. So as you can see, these two things switch around. Okay, let's go back to center. That's completely fine. And lastly, what I want to show you is align content. But for that, we need multiple rows here. So I'm going to change this back to 50%, so make it a bit smaller. I'm going to remove the flex direction column, again, just to kind of simplify everything here. And I'm going to add a bigger height and width to this, so 20, all right? Actually, let's do more. Let's do 30. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come here and add a flex wrap and say wrap. All right, so as you can see, our content starts wrapping. So whenever you have a situation like this, where your content wraps and you want to align these, you can also do something called align content. And this is basically going to take everything here and it's going to position it in a certain way. Let me make this a bit bigger again. Height 80, all right, like that. So align content, we can do flex start. There we go, that's gonna put it at the beginning. If we add center, that's gonna drop all the content in the center. We can also do space between and all of those other lovely things. So as you can see, space between and space around. That's gonna give space around. And did I miss anyone? Okay, there's one called stretch. So let's do stretch. Stretch. How do you write stretch? But then again, for this one, you might need to remove these. I misspelled this. Stretch. I don't know how to write stretch. Okay, so if we remove these are gonna stretch by default. Okay, so basically when you have content that's wrapping around, you can adjust the way you want these to be wrapped around. That's why you would use align content. So let's just say flex start for now and start. Let's do start like that and see how that behaves. So as you can see, it just wraps at the beginning. If we do end, let's kind of mess around with this. Then it starts wrapping down there. Okay, very cool. So those are all the properties that you can use on the parent. Let's switch this back to 10, make them small again, and let's remove everything here and just have it simple like this. Okay? So now the content basically, there's nothing really happening. Okay? So next up, what I want to take a look at the properties that you can apply to each item. And this is where Flexbox gets really fun. You can imagine that this is your header, maybe this is a section on your page, this is another section on your page, and you finish your website and you're like, oh no, I wanted this section to actually be here. So to give you a practical example, on these websites, we have this section and we have this section with the image gallery. So maybe I'm like, oh wait, I wanted this part of the page, so this section to be here and this one to be up here. So what would you have to do? Well, normally what you would do is you would go into your HTML and you would copy the thing over and you would paste it above. However, with Flexbox, everything becomes so awesome because you have something called order. As long as you have a parent that has display flex on it, you can come here and you can change the order of the items. You can add a order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to each of them. Order 2, order 3, order 4, order 5, and order 6. Okay? Let's say I want to switch out box 2 with box 5. So I would just go to box 2, change this to 5, and box 5, change it to 2. And then there we go. That's so easy. I want to change box 1 with box 6. I go to box 1 and change it to order 6, and this one to order 1. And there you go. So this is super powerful and very easy. At the end, if you want to modify or move things around, you can do that very simply in your CSS with Flexbox. All right, so let me get rid of everything in here like this. Perfect. Another one I'm going to show you is called Flex Grow. All right. And this is going to be an easy way that you can add a width to your little box here. So what I'm actually going to do is change the direction here to flex direction column like this. And I'll take a look if I go to one of these boxes and if I add a flex grow of 1 and hit save. Now you're not going to see anything. Actually, the direction here doesn't even matter unless I start removing a few boxes. So let me get rid of just leave 2 boxes. Okay. So what's going to happen if I add flex grow? Let's just add it to 1 box. Let's add it to this one. This is going to take up all the available space. So it kind of acts like the width, right? But it's going to take up all the available space as soon as it hits this box 2. It cannot get any bigger than this because we have the text laying in here, as you can see, and this still is responsive. It still works nicely. But what if I want these to have equal width? So maybe width 50, width 50. So what I can do is just add a flex grow of 1 on box 2 as well. And now it has equal space. But the cool thing now is maybe I want this box to be 2 times bigger than this box. So that way I can just change this to 2. So now this is 2 times larger than this. So if you take this space and this space, it's going to equal to 2 times larger. And you can do this as many times as you want. Take a look at that. And it's always going to stay responsive and it's super, super useful. Okay, by default, this is going to be set to 0. So you can actually remove the width from here and nothing's going to happen. So you can actually use flex grow to add the widths to your elements. Okay, one thing I want to show you, if you add a flex wrap to wrap, let's bring this down. See, this is not going to wrap if you add this flex grow. Now, rather than using width or things of that sort, we saw that we can add flex grow, but to add a base size to these elements. So if you don't have, maybe you don't want that flex grow actually grows it to have all the available space in here, right? If we add a flex grow to all the boxes, so flex grow, and I add 1, the space is going to be all distributed equally. So if I change the size of this, as you can see, it doesn't even break. It goes to the max and it grows all equivalently. All right, and we saw that if we add 2 to this, this is gonna be 2 times bigger than the rest of these. Now let's do 3, so 3 times bigger than the rest of these. This is always gonna maintain its size like this. Okay, but what if I wanna add maybe just a base width to them? We can do something called flex basis. And here, rather than again adding a width of 20 rem or a percentage, we can add a flex basis. And in here, we can say something like 10, all right? But we can still add flex grow if we want to this. So you remember that when we added flex wrap and we just added a normal flex grow of 1, we could not make this jump to another line. As you can see, it just doesn't jump to another line. We can still have that functionality as long as we have a flex basis. So if I add a flex basis to this of something like 30 rem, maybe I want this, well, let me do something smaller because I'm gonna ruin the surprise here. Let's do 5. All right, let's do even, okay, never mind. Okay, that's good. So 5 is good. So this still takes up the whole space here. But as soon as I make this smaller and these elements are going to become smaller than 5 rem, the flex wrap is going to go into effect, which is very nice because as soon as it gets smaller than 5 rem, okay, it's too small. I cannot get the screen that small. So let's do 10, let's do 20. Nah, I spoiled the fun again. No, no, 13. Okay, let's do 10. So as soon as this gets smaller than 10 rem, this last box is going to jump down here. And the nice thing is that it's going to get that flex grow 1. So it's going to stretch out. Okay, so let's take a look. Boom, boom, boom. So look how nice this is. You can get some super nice responsive design. Maybe I want this to have a 2-column layout. So I can just increase the flex basis here and take a look. Now we have a 2-column layout. As soon as we get smaller, this is going to keep splitting up till we arrive to a 1-column layout. How cool is that? So you can still create some awesome things, but remember, if you don't have a flex basis, this is just always going to be stuck like this. Right? It's always going to just have this flex grow of 1 because it doesn't know when to drop to another line. We haven't defined a basis, a size for this box. But if we have a size like 20 rem, it's going to know when it should jump down below because it's always going to keep that 20. It's never going to get smaller than that 20, but it can always get bigger just because we have that flex grow. A last quick one, which is called flex shrink. Now flex shrink by default has a 1 on it, okay? So everything shrinks normally like this. However, if I change 1, let's say box 2, I add a flex shrink of 0, this box will not have the ability to shrink anymore. So as you can see, if I go down like this box will always have the same flex basis that we provided up here, which is 10 rem. So it's never gonna shrink more than that. So actually how we use these usually is in combination. So you would use flex basis, you would use flex shrink, and flex grow as well. And actually what is recommended for you to do is to use the ones that you want and let the other ones on auto, and Flexbox is going to figure it out on its own, which is very cool. So maybe I just want to have this so it has a flex basis of, I don't know, like 20 rem, and then it grows. So when it drops to a new line, it just grows nicely. Okay, so what we can do is we can remove everything here, text align. I don't know why I added a text align there. We just have this, let's remove this as well. So we are back from the start, okay? What I can do is go on all the boxes and I can just say flex. The first one is gonna be grow, the second one is gonna be shrink, and the last one is gonna be the basis. Okay, and by default, this is automatically 1 anyway. So let's save this and see if this works. So we should be able to, oh, we need to add flex wrap and add a wrap. Okay, so it still works the same way, but the nice thing is that we can just use 1 here. You can change it like this. So now everything still works perfectly fine. Okay, so let me show you a few more properties that we can use here very quickly. I'm gonna remove everything from here so we are back to these gorgeous looking boxes, and I'm gonna add a height to this container. So I'm gonna add a 50 VH. Okay, so what we can do is maybe I just want to move these individually. So we can do that as well. If we are in flex direction row, which we are now, we can add an align self. So I can go to box 2 maybe, and I can add an align self. I can say center, and as you can see, that's gonna move it down in the center. We can also add end, that's gonna move it to the end, or start. Excuse me, I need to add flex end. There we go, and flex start. It's gonna move it back up to its initial position. Okay, so I changed the direction of these boxes, and what I'm gonna do now is go up here, and I'm just gonna add an align. Let's add a align items center. Maybe I wanna center these. Okay, perfect. We have them centered, but even like this, I can still move them around. If I add an align self, I can do flex end or flex start. So I can still move these independently on their own. So this is a very cool property because there are some cases where sometimes you just want to move one element in a specific direction. And with this, you can do that. All right, so now we know Flexbox. Let's take a look at a real site example and how we can implement it.
Hi, it's your boy David, and I want to actually show you a quick practice that we can try with Flexbox. And I found this website example here, so let's try to, we're not going to do the whole thing because, I mean, this is not ours, but let's kind of see how we can add Flexbox to make this website. So the whole layout here. Actually, let's do maybe the nav, because that's interesting, this section up here, and maybe this one here, all right? Because this is an interesting case here where we have 2 columns, but we have the picture here, but the text goes this way. So by that logic, if you remember in Flex, if you had display Flex, then all of our content goes this way, like in a horizontal line. So how do we fix this issue? So we're gonna get into that. These are actually very simple to make, and I'm actually gonna add 1 or 2 more pages to the final projects, so we have more to experiment with and to practice. Okay, but generally let's go with this. So let me just zoom in. Does this work? Yes. Let's try to recreate this part first. All right, let's just do this. Let's not add this for now. Just keep it fast and simple. So what I'm gonna do is we are gonna go into VS Code, and I'm starting this from scratch, so you can start this from scratch if you want to. I'm just gonna add an index.html, and to generate a boilerplate, remember you can do shift and exclamation point, and if you hit tab, bada boom, we have it. So this website is called, I don't remember, Flourish Collective. So let's just do this. All right, and we're gonna move on straight to Flexbox. We're not gonna add the meta tags and all of those. We're gonna do those in the final projects. Let's also create a style.css. I'm writing this with one hand. All right. I didn't sleep that much last night, so I apologize. Okay, let's link it that we need to do. So let's do that, link, and we do style sheet, and boom, perfect. Okay, so that's a good start. Let's also open up this with live server. So when we do that, we are gonna see that we have absolutely nothing. Lovely. Okay, what do we have here? So let's create this. So we basically have a header with a nav, and we have the logo right here in the middle. So to add that, all we have to do is create a header like this, and in here we're gonna add a nav that has a unordered list with some links. All right, and these are A tags, but for now let's just add home. Let's say contact. I'm not sure what the site says there. Shall we take a look? Courses, blog, shop. Okay, let's just do 2 more. copy, courses, and blog. All right, and actually in here, in between the middle, we also have a H1 that says Flourish Collective. Perfect, so that's it, that's the first part. Okay, the second part is just some text there with a background image and a button. So let's add that. We're just gonna go outside of the header here, and what I'm gonna do is just create a section, and I'm gonna call this a hero. So you can also do this. You can see section.hero, and that's gonna create a section with the class of hero. Quick shortcuts, wow, amazing. Okay, so in here, what I wanna have is, let's see, just a H2 and a button. So let's add a H2 that says, want to turn your passion project into profitable creative business. Do I remember that? Want to create a profitable business? No, model with cash? I forgot. It's okay. It's okay. We move on. Let's go here. We create a button and roll to the course. So let's do a button and roll to the course. This is a long button. And roll course. Let's just shorten this up. Okay, so that's the second part, and let's also make another one. Let's do this one, because I want to show you something cool. So by the logic, we have another section here, right? This whole big thing, and we have an image, some headers, and some paragraphs. So I'll do it this way, but we're gonna have some issues with this, but it's okay because we're gonna fix it. So this is called the introductory section. So let's just say intro. Okay, class intro. Here we're gonna have an image. And let's add a H2 that says, hey there, I'm David. All right, and we have some paragraphs here as well. Let's say lorem 10. Let's just duplicate these a few more times. Maybe delete a bit from here. Maybe delete a bit from here. So they're not the same height, the same length. Okay, let's also get two images. So let's go back to the browser and let's go on Pexels, lovely. I actually got two images. I think I wrote, let's see, what did I write? Laptop. Let's search and make sure to download these two images that I got. I don't know which images I got. This one, all right, and click here and get the large one. Okay, this one. And I also got, let me take a look. Never mind. Let's just get this one. I think I have it downloaded somewhere, but I'm just gonna drag it in here for now. Okay, which other image did I get? You know what, let's just get a random one. Let's do this. And for this one, let's also do large and drag this in here as well. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is up here, we're just gonna drop the MacBook Pro iPhone Cup Desk one. And let's also add a alternative tag here, laptop with iPhone, and hit save. Okay, perfect. So that's kind of the whole markup. Now, if we take a look in the browser, this is going to be a bit nasty. And the reason why is because this is going to take up the whole screen. So for now, let's just go in the CSS. And on the image, I just want to kind of change the height of this to something like 2 rem. All right, just to make this extremely small so it doesn't take up the whole space. We're going to fix this eventually. But for now, let's just make it small so we can see the rest of the content. Okay. Let's do the first steps, which are removing the basic styles. So we're gonna say margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing border box. Hit save. All right, so that removes all the additional spacing. Let's also get the anchor tags, and I'm gonna add a color of black to these, okay? Just like that. And let's remove the text decoration and say none. Okay, good. And now what I wanna do is kind of put them in the same line. So how do we do that? Well, we know that we can add display flex, but how do we add that? So what do we need to add it to? Well, if I add it to nav, nothing's gonna happen because it's gonna display flex its child, which is the UL. So yeah, it's the only child here, so nothing's gonna happen. However, if we add it to the UL, then these are gonna go horizontally. So what we need to do is just add display flex to the UL. So let's go back here and add nav UL display flex. Hit save, let's take a look, and as you can see, everything goes in one line, which is perfect, which is what I want. And now what we can do is just go here, and now you can also add height if you want, but I'm gonna kind of show you the benefits and the downsides of adding heights. Generally, I think it's a better idea to just add padding to your stuff. So let's say padding, I'll just show you an example here. Oh, and before we do that, let's also change the rem size. So let's go HTML, and we're gonna say font size 62.5%. Okay? Okay, so everything is very small now, but that's fine. I'll just zoom in for now before we adjust the font sizes. So what I want to do now, you know what, actually let's just get rid of this, because I don't want to focus on adding fonts and making everything look pretty. I just want to focus on Flexbox. So let me kind of show you what's up. If I add a padding of like 2 rem to this UL, as you can see, it makes a lot of space here. Okay, and let's also add a background color to this. Background light blue. Okay, so you can see it there. Now, the problem is sometimes your height can get very tricky. Right now, if I collapse this like this, as you can see, it's very hard to see, but I can still scroll through this and the height stays the same. So I don't have an issue here with the height. However, if I remove the padding and I add a height of 10 VH, all right, so I have my thing there. If I start collapsing this, then as you can see, some weird things happen. Since the height gets really small, since this is responsive and it's 10% of the viewport height, as soon as it gets very small, the text kind of breaks and it leaves outside of the container. So in case you have some kind of problems where the text might get out of the container, it's because you probably have a set height. All right, and that is why a lot of people say that, hey, don't set heights to things. Generally, it's very good to just let the content take up the size of the height. However, there is still a way you can do it. If you really want, you can do a min height, because sometimes you might want to do things like this, right? You might want to have a full page here, and I want this page, I want it to take up 100% of my screen. So I want this to be like 10 VH and this 90 VH, right? I don't want some weird spacing like this or something like this to happen, right? I want this full screen. So the way you can achieve that is you can add a min height here. And now if we take a look, this shouldn't destroy and it shouldn't leave my content like that. And now what we can do is we can add that padding back, and everything still works fine. So I can do 1 rem here. So I can still have my padding going, which is nice, and nothing breaks. But this is still 10 VH, which is nice. But as soon as we get super small, well, it doesn't really matter because we can scroll now. But I just wanted to point this out for fun because I know I had a lot of issues with this in the past. Okay, so as you can see now it grows on its own, but let's get back to Flexbox. So what can we do with this? Well, we saw that we added display flex and that put everything in the same line. And now take a look how simple this is. To align everything in the center here, all we can do is add a justify content. Let's do a space around maybe. And look at that. Everything is the way we want it to work. So how awesome is this? Flexbox makes it super easy for us to create these layouts. Now, maybe I don't want that much. Maybe I want these to be closer to each other here. So in that case, what I could do is maybe I can restrain the width of this. So I can add a width of something like 80% like this, right? And now the container is not that big.
So now what I can do, if you remember, is we can add a margin auto, and that's gonna center it in the middle like that. Okay, but for this one, let's keep it simple. It's fine like this, there's nothing wrong. However, as you can see, it's still not centered in the middle vertically. So again, all we can do is just add in line items, and that's gonna put everything perfectly in the center. So, how easy is this? All right, so let's take a look what we want to do next. Yeah, everything works the way I want. It's perfect. We can remove these text list style if we want, but let's kind of move on to the next part. And I'm also going to remove the background color because we don't need this anymore. Okay, so we have everything on the UL. Let's go on to the hero section, which is this. So again, here what we can do is grab the hero, and we can add a minimum height of 90 VH. And now, as you can see, we have all the screen size and the space. And as soon as I start scrolling, we have the rest of the content. So now we can add a background image to this by saying background. Where are you, Mr. Background image? Here it is. And we can say URL. So we can pass in a URL. And in here, we can add some quotes and slide a dash. Not dash, what is this? Slasher. And then we can add our, what are we using? Silver, black, laptop, blah, blah, blah. Hit save. There it is. Gorgeous. Now there's a problem. As soon as we resize, it's not responsive. Okay? Because it's trying to contain itself into this box. So what we can do is change this to background size cover, and then it's going to adapt based on the size of our viewport. So we can say background. Where are you? Background size, and we can do cover. And as you can see, it says, oh, it doesn't say anything. Okay, but as you can see, if we make this larger, it's gonna stretch all the way out nicely like that. Perfect. And let's also move this to the center. So I want background position, and I'm gonna move it to the center. If I can find it, background, sometimes I don't wanna type, but VS Code makes me type. Center, lovely. There we go. So now I can see the full laptop in view. And now how can we move these nicely in the middle here? So let's take a look at how we can do that. We can go here to the hero section again. And remember, let's take a look what content we have in this hero section. Well, we have the H2 and the button. So that means we can apply display flex to this. And also let's change the color to white first, so we can actually see what's going on in here. Okay, so there we go. That's what we have, and we want to put it in the middle. Well, we can add a display flex again. So you're gonna be flexing 24/7 with this display flex. We're gonna use this so much that it's gonna be in your brain forever. So as you can see now, if I add display flex now, this comes here and this comes here, but I don't want this. I still want to keep that behavior of these going in a column. I just want to have the ability to use the justify content and align items. That's kind of the main reason why you want to use display flex now. So don't worry, we can change back the behavior by doing flex direction, and we change it back to column. All right, so we are back at the same thing, but now we can use align items and justify content. So I can use align items center, and it's perfectly gonna center it here. And then what we can do to align it here is you just use justify content. And now, before I do that, as you can see now, align items drops it horizontally in the center. And the reason why that happened is because we changed the flex direction. And remember, when we put column, these two change. Okay, so here we can just do center. But if you do center, it's like whatever anyway. So now if I want to give some spacing in between these, I can just add some padding and margin, and that's completely fine. If you want to push this content up a bit, maybe like here. Oh, as you can see, this one actually breaks into 2 lines. So let me show you actually something in HTML that we can do. Let's also add more text, creative business. Okay, so let's go here and add comma, creative business. All right.
And what I can do is actually go here wherever I want, and I can add a break tag like this, and that's going to break the text into two. So if we take a look now, as you can see, it breaks the text into two, but this still looks kind of weird. So what we can do is get the hero. I believe we have a H2. We can grab this and we can add a text align of center. And now everything is very nice. All right, what we can do is just add a bit of margin to this. So we can say margin of 2 rem. Let's take a look. Is that okay? That's okay. Perfect. Let's get this button, add a bit of height, add just a bit of padding to it, make it look semi-okay. We can do that by adding a padding of 1 rem, 2 rem, and just change the background and the border on it. Background, let's do a light something and get rid of that border and say none. Okay, so something like that. Let's make something halfway nice looking. I want to go something bright. A bright green. Wow, lovely, perfect. So as you can see, we finished the section. Not even that hard, huh? And everything is scaling as well, which is cool. And look, we barely wrote any CSS code. Okay, this last part is tricky because I told you here that we have these two sections, all right? We have this, my apologies, we have one big section, but we have this image and some text here. And by our logic, if we add these display flex to this section, all of our content is going to go horizontally, but this goes in a column. So how do we do that? How do we fix this issue? Okay, let's go back here to our image and copy this from up here and add it down here. Okay, and let's just increase the size of this a bit. Let's do 5 rem. Let's do 20. All right, so it's like 200 pixels. It's a set amount of pixels, but it is fine. So here, what I can do is, let's see what happens if I add display flex to the intro section, okay? So we can get the intro, display flex. Hit save. Oh no, all of our content runs the way I thought it would, is this way, right? But I just want the image and the rest of them to stay intact. So the way you can fix that is you can add display flex to this, which is fine, but we can wrap the rest of our content in another div. And then the image and the div is going to be displayed flex, which is perfect because that's what we want to go for. So let's wrap everything here into a div. I'm not sure how I wrapped it, but I broke the code. So let's go back here, cut this and paste it again, hit save. All right, why is this removing my div? That's superbly strange. All right, div. I'll delete it and I'll just go down here and close it up. That's very weird. Okay, now it works. See, as you can see now, it fixes all of our issues, which is super nice. For this one, I'm also going to add a class of intro text. And if you find it hard to visualize, you can add some background colors to these divs. So here, what you can do is you can add a background color to this, which is the image, and you can add a background color to this div if you find yourself a bit struggling to visualize Flexbox. Okay, but this is our result. So perfect. So now what I can do is go here to style.css and we can select everything that we have. So we have the intro section here. Let's say, what else do we want to get? We want to get the intro image. Oh, I misspelled this, intro text, like that. We want to get the intro image and the intro text. Intro image, intro text. Okay, I'm gonna remove this from here to here and delete this because it's the same thing. Okay, so what I want to do is add a flex 1 to this because I want these to be equal sizes, just like here. As you can see, this is equal size, this is equal size. So what I'm gonna do is add that flex. I'm gonna say flex 1, 1, and 10, or yeah, let's do 10 rem.
Okay, and what this means, if you forgot, is this is flex grow, this is flex shrink, and this is the flex spaces. So this should be the default size of it anyways, but we can make it grow. So if we add the same thing here, now it should be the same size. As you can see, just like that. Perfect. However, this is kind of acting a bit strange. It's kind of longer, this image here. This is not really the behavior I want to have. If I change the height to something like 40, as you can see, the image is kind of, it doesn't care. It's going to take up like a bunch of space here anyway. So let me show you another way where we can make this very nice. So what I'm going to do is actually remove the, let's just remove the, let's put something like 10 here. And I'm going to remove this last line from the image. Okay. And I'm actually going to remove the image and show you. Let's get rid of this for now. And what we can do is just add another div here. And I'm going to call this a image container. So I'm going to add a class of intro image. All right. And hit save. So I'm going to go down here and add an intro image. And this one, I'm going to add the flex 1 and 1. Okay. There we go. So now what I want to do is add a background color. So this is a bit easier to see. Background of light blue, and let's do a background of something like light coral and hit save. So this is a problem that you might have. As you can see now, it's perfectly the same size, which is what we want. And when we go smaller, all right, well, let's increase this with something like 20 and 20. Let's go down here. Oh, okay, I forgot to add also a flex wrap. So let's go here to the parent, which is the intro, and add a flex wrap. And say wrap, save. And now, as you can see, as soon as I got smaller than that 20, it's gonna wrap automatically. Okay, anyway, let's also give a bit of space here just so I can demonstrate something for you. 50 VH. So you might experience a lot of issues with these images when you try to add an image and maybe another div next to it. So I think it's a good idea to also create a div for the image, and then you drop the image into this div, and then you constrain it to the size of this. Okay, so let's try to do that, and let's see if that works a bit better. So what we can do is inside this div now, we can drop in our image, and we can link to that MacBook, and hit save. All right, so there it is. And now what I can do is actually remove this height from here, and on the image, what I want to do is just add that width 100%. So it takes up the width of that div. And if we do it like this, you're gonna see that it's actually working very nicely. So there we go. Take a look at that. It still maintains that width, and this is growing the way it's supposed to grow. Let's also make this text nice looking. So what we can do is on this section, we can also add a display flex. So on here, we can say display flex, and we can add a flex direction column because we don't want this to change in this direction. Right, like that, we don't want that. So let's do flex direction column, and I'm just gonna align everything to the center, line item center, and justify content center. Hit save, and we have everything in the center. Let's add some padding to everything. Intro text H2, we're gonna add a padding of 2 rem, and on the intro text P, we're gonna add a padding of 1 rem, and hit save. And there we go. We have everything the way we want. Now I forgot to add the button, but generally kind of the same thing happens. Now, as you can see, the thing with this is that our height kind of changes dynamically for this section because we added a width 100 to this. So as soon as we make this grow, the image is going to grow as well. So there we go. As you can see, it stretches even more. Now you can mess around in different ways with this if you want to set a fixed one, but actually I recommend you to leave it like this
this is probably a better solution. And what we can also do is maybe increase, so it hits here, it changes to the mobile view, is if you don't like how it looks. So what we can do is change this 20 RAM here, our flex spaces, to something like 30 RAM. All right, and this is going to increase it. As you can see, now it's going to hit mobile for us, or it's going to wrap, so it's mobile friendly way sooner. All right, so now it looks nice like this. Okay. There we go. Take a look. How cool. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so there we go. That's how Flexbox works in a practical way. And yeah, we can slowly start getting into building out projects, because you kind of built out a small little website here. So congratulations. You did great. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'll take you out and drink a coffee with you because you deserve it. So let's keep going.